Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Purple People Podcast, the unfortunate podcast that's coming at you after the Minnesota Vikings blow a playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. I'd ask how you're doing this week, Adam, but I think I already know what the answer to that is going to be.
Personally, I'm doing all right, but
I,
I'm not sure that the rest of me will agree.
yeah, I know once we start talking about it, we're going to go from being, yeah, I'm all right, I can deal with it, to, yeah, I'm just pissed off all over again.
Just starting off with the anger sharks are swimming.
Oh, it's going to be one of those shows, too, isn't it?
I think it will be, but let's start off on a good note here and let's give away some game balls.
There's a game ball to give away.
Sure is.
Who?
My game ball's going to Michael Jenkins,
Molasses Mike?
to Jinxie Cat.
Oh, yeah, Molasses Mike.
He didn't give up all game. He kept running his routes. He kept doing everything, even though the defense wasn't taking anything seriously. He was doing his thing and got himself a nice long touchdown in garbage time. Played with a lot of heart, and that's the kind of stuff you want to see as a guy that doesn't give up.
Yeah, and I'm giving my game ball to Adrian Peterson because, I mean, come on, MV Peterson, just give him the ball. You might as well, right?
Right. The only other guys I really considered for the game ball were Greenway and Harrison Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that Michael Jenkins needs some love.
Yeah, I agree. It could be the last time that Michael Jenkins suits up as a Viking. It could be his last play in the NFL. But let's quit beating around the bush. Let's just talk about Joe Webb. Can we do that now? That's
Do
what I'm
we
ready.
need to label him the donkey, or are we just
I
going with it?
I think we can pretty much unanimously vote him for the donkey for this week, right?
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe Webb.
Yeah, what did you call
Did you get
him?
the same feeling I did as soon as you heard that Christian Ponder was inactive? That you were hoping the announcer would say that McLeod Bethel Thompson was the quarterback?
Yeah, I had my fingers crossed that we were going to see Star Fox on the field at some point, but nope, didn't happen. It was all Joe Webb, even though it should not have been all Joe Webb. Can we has anyone ever really decided why he sucked so bad? Like, I've got a theory. I want to see how close your theory is to my theory on this one.
Now, I hate being like this because he seems like a real nice guy, and he seems like he really wants to learn and develop and all that. But he had the same exact problems all game after he's been training for this situation all year. And it's the big stage, prime time, playoffs. He steps up. He could make himself a starting quarterback somewhere in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And what does he do? He does that. I'm not even saying what he did wrong because it was the whole game.
You can sum it up in the Joe Webb lob, and that's what we were talking about earlier on Twitter, is, him just getting ready to get sacked and just kind of lobbing the ball just right straight up in the air for no reason. My theory behind this is that he's in over his head at quarterback. Like, I don't think he's capable of being clearly a starting quarterback in the NFL, and he's not a capable backup at that position either. And I am just really confused for a guy who appears to be such a good athlete. He has no... I don't know what position Joe Webb can play. Like, you try him at wide receiver, and all that you hear is that he can't catch the football. So they're going to move him to quarterback, and they move him to quarterback, and he can't do that either. So what? Like, I don't know what you do with the guy.
I'm not a big fan of Judd Zulgad, and I'll say his name again here a little bit later in the show. But he works at ESPN 1500. Me and him were actually getting in a little bit of a discussion there on Twitter about Joe Webb, and I was talking to him about how every time he got frustrated, he'd throw the ball straight up in the air, and how I thought that it was because he saw the play where Christian Ponder hit his arm on that helmet, and and the ball went straight up in the air. And Jarius Wright just kind of came diving down with it. I think Webb was hoping that they'd be
That
able
was
to
gonna
do that all
happen.
the time.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
gonna happen every single time. Yeah. I don't know, and part of the blame you can lay on Bill Musgrave, to be fair, is that other than that opening series, they didn't really play too much into his strong suit. But on the flip side is that I don't think you're
Webb
gonna,
has a strong suit.
well, running, like clearly he can, he can scramble and he can do good things with his feet.
I know he's got weak suits, like reading coverage and pocket presence and
Reading defense,
distributing the ball and
generally playing quarterback in the National Football League. But I guess my point here is that within a week, you're not going to suddenly change your entire offense to suit Joe Webb. Like you said, he had all season to prepare himself to run the offense that the Minnesota Vikings run, which isn't really a lot of passes to begin with, and he couldn't do that. So I don't know. It's frustrating, and I don't really have much more to add to it, honestly.
now if you get a chance, go over to 1500 ESPN because Judd Zolgad has a great article there about how the fact that Joe Webb is the backup for Christian Ponder really describes where this team thought it was.
Hmm.
I mean, this Vikings team didn't have a whole lot of high expectations for itself. It never thought it was a playoff team. That's why they didn't keep a guy like Rosenfeld on. And that's why they went with three young guys, is because they thought that they were going to grow and develop together over the course of a couple of years before they had a playoff shot. Well, this team comes out, overachieves, and gets left in this situation where this guy that clearly had no reason to be on the football field at this point in time
Hmm.
in that position was there. And it was just, to quote my Facebook from earlier, a webtrocity.
Very much so. And I guess one more thing I wanted to bring up that ties in with that is they were they were going to stick with Joe Webb throughout this game unless he fell and broke his leg, because there was a shot, and you got to remember that we talked about McLeod Bethel Thompson earlier. We jokingly were we going to see him or not, and he was dressed and he was the number two quarterback. But there was a shot there really quickly where I caught him, McLeod Bethel Thompson, standing on the sidelines, and he was completely covered up, and I mean not like one of those big oversized like jackets on. I mean it didn't even look like he had pads on, and
Wow.
he was the number two quarterback for that game. And I've got this on DVR, and I actually am gonna go back through and I'm gonna rewatch the whole game so that I can find that shot and try to post a screenshot of it. My theory on that one is that no matter how bad Joe Webb looked in that game, and folks, he looked really bad.
Oh, yes.
They were not going to pull him and put in McLeod Bethel Thompson, because I think that Minnesota wanted to know for sure what they had in Joe Webb, and
Right.
this sealed the deal that he's not going to be a quarterback for this team.
If he is, I don't know how they're going to pull it off. So this is probably his last audition.
Yeah, and I think we'll save. There'll be more Joe Webb talk coming up here in the future. We got all off season to talk about what the team's going to be doing moving forward. Let's talk a little bit more about the rest of the game. What do you
All right.
got?
The
What do you got
Packers
next?
defense played in a way that was really interesting. Something you don't see in the NFL really at all is where they continuously play the run because they don't fear the pass. You saw Green Bay Packers secondary players jogging alongside wide receivers because they knew that the passes couldn't get where they needed to be.
Hmm.
And that is why Adrian Peterson didn't get the yards that he needed. That and because they were behind for a lot of the game and we had to see Joe Webb pass the football, which is something he couldn't do. So We saw Adrian Peterson getting very, very frustrated with the fact that he couldn't be as much of a part of this team in this game as he wanted to.
And yeah, like you said, guys like Devin Aromashodu, hey, everyone knows that Devin Aromashodu isn't like there's no threat there with him lining up on the field. And Green Bay uh they knew that and they disrespected our receivers like you said by playing like that, but they could get away with it because there was just no threat of our quarterback getting the ball to them.
Right, when you add in the fact that the wide receivers are understaffed on the Vikings team, with the fact that Joe Webb can't distribute the football, you've got yourself one awful, awful situation.
Hmm.
And you saw the players looking for the football in the places that Christian Ponder would have delivered them.
Yeah, like in front of them or on stride, on time.
See, we get on Christian Ponder because he throws the football a little bit behind someone or a little bit on top of.
Hmm.
When when we saw what was going on this game, we really started wondering, wow, I hope he heals up fast.
Yeah, it's funny how the game that Christian Ponder doesn't play did more to cement his future as the starting quarterback in the Minnesota Vikings next season than him starting and winning all those games prior to this. Like, seeing the team without him, you go, oh, yeah, actually, we were pretty fortunate to have him playing for us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of people coming out questioning Christian Ponder's toughness, saying that he didn't play because he was soft or some sort of wuss. And that is definitely not the case.
Well, the inevitable comparison to Brett Favre always comes up, and you can't help but think if Favre was back there playing, there's no way in hell that he would have missed a playoff game, let alone a playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. But at the same time, there's a reason why Brett Favre is a first round ballot Hall of Fame player, because guess what? There's no one else like him. There's not a lot of players like him ever.
Well, it's not only
So it
Brett Favre, because the Vikings have seen other guys in the same position, Gus Frerotte.
Well, yeah, Gus Frerotte was tough as nails too, and he was jokingly referred to him as the poor man's Brett Favre. I mean, there's not a lot of people that are in that mindset, and Christian Ponder is, he's a tough guy, I think, and
Well, we saw situations similar to this last year in the playoffs when Houston had Matt Schaub go down and TJ Yates had to come in the game.
hmm
And we saw a lot more out of TJ Yates that game to make us think that he's a capable backup. And
yeah.
that's why TJ Yates is still there and still doing his thing. And nobody thinks when TJ Yates comes in a game, oh, well, we're boned.
Did you watch the Washington Redskins game tonight?
I watched every game this week.
Yeah, so
And,
you see, RG3 went down and Kirk Cousins came in, and he didn't look, spectacular by any means when he was out there.
no,
But he made a couple throws, and you went, oh, hey, Kirk Cousins looks like a serviceable backup. And you've seen it where he came in earlier in the season and led him to, a touchdown, game-winning drive like that. And you go, that's a serviceable backup that you need to have on
right.
your team. And Joe Webb is not Kirk Cousins. He's not a serviceable backup. You can't do jack with Joe Webb on the team.
No, no, you can't,
Yeah.
sadly. Um, it's hard to talk about this offense, though, keeping hammering in how lost this offense was with Joe Webb, because this is what was the downfall of the whole scheming, the whole idea of this. We saw formations over and over again because it seemed like Joe Webb only knew how to run the same couple plays over and over. And the Packers knew when we were lining up in a certain way what we were running, and they were able to stop it.
hmm
It was just disgusting to watch. It's bad when I was watching it and I felt like the game was over after the like a quarter and a half of football and the game's over. I'm laughing because that's how I get when I get upset. I just kind of laugh at everything and like oh you know just
yeah.
in disbelief. That's just how I get,
I'm
and
I'm
I was really disappointed.
I'm right with you too. at the same time, though, you got to be proud. You kind of got to put this game into perspective and go, well, if Ponder would have been playing, if Ponder would have been healthy, this game would not have been as big of an embarrassment as what it was. Like,
No.
I think if Ponder would have been out there, uh, we had a good chance to go into Lambeau Field and beat the Green Bay Packers,
Yes.
but that's a what if scenario that didn't happen. Unfortunately, we had Joe Webb on the field, and we weren't able to come up with the win. I'm still very proud of what this team was able to accomplish this season, and they got a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of really good things that they can build upon moving forward, starting with our head coach, Leslie Frazier. Did you have a chance to listen to his speech that he gave to the team in the locker room after this loss?
I'll be absolutely honest. I have not listened to anything. I haven't checked anything out. I've still been sulking a bit, and I'm sure that when I get things together a little bit better, I'll check it all out. But as of right now, I haven't.
The Joe Webb press conference, you really don't. That'll piss you off. You really don't want to watch that one. But the one with Frazier talking to the team, you can tell why the players rally around him the way they do, and we are very lucky to have him as a head coach. It was an emotional speech where he went out there and he thanked everyone, for what they did, and he's putting his hand over his heart when he's doing this, and you
Yeah.
can you can tell that he's fighting back tears because he's getting emotional talking to him, and he's telling him how no matter where you go from this, you just got to you got to remember that football's only a small part of your life, and he's talking to him about you know being men and what they can take from this and the rest of their lives. And it's a really good inspirational speech that I highly recommend everyone check out. It's over on you can find it on Vikings.com. Just click on the media vault, and you want to definitely listen to what Leslie Frazier has to say.
You should definitely post that up on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I'll get that up on the Facebook page too.
But a lot of fans forget how lucky we are to still have Frazier because he interviewed several times for head coaching positions in other cities, for other teams in the past. For the past several years, he's been doing that.
Hmm.
And we are very lucky he hasn't taken any of those jobs and he's stuck around with the Vikings. And
I
now that the Vikings have him, I don't see him going anywhere. Several times for head coaching positions in other cities, for other teams in the past. For the past several years, he's been doing that.
mhm.
And we are very lucky he hasn't taken any of those jobs and he's stuck around with the Vikings. And
I
now that the Vikings have him, I don't see him going anywhere.
earned it.
Because I admit I was 100% nervous when he interviewed with Seattle.
Yeah.
And I really was worried that he was going to be gone because Seattle is where Vikings go when they leave Minnesota.
Where Minnesota Vikings go to die with the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, it's weird, but I'm really glad for Frazier is our head coach, and he will be for a long time. I hope they pound out an extension here
Oh, they
for
will.
him.
And I think that's got to be the first thing that the Vikings get done in the offseason is get Leslie Frazier to a long-term contract and get some of the assistants uh, up on contracts too. Like I said,
Okay,
we'll talk about all of that later on. We're going to save a bunch of topics like those, for the off season here.
definitely. Here's something cool about the defense that you might not have noticed because you were so frustrated with the offense. Did you notice that the Vikings defense held the Packers to 5 straight 3-and-outs?
No, I did not actually.
Yeah, yeah. But it didn't matter because the Vikings couldn't move the ball on offense, and everyone was so mad at that. But this defense, it would play great contained defense. Allowing the Packers only that many points is actually a victory for a defense
Hmm.
because they actually played fairly well. I mean, Greenway's a beast, 10 tackles and an assist. He's going to be doing that all year long. The only thing I thought was really weird in this game, other than Joe Webb, was AJ Jefferson being benched for Josh Robinson. Now, I'm not sure Jefferson earned the benching, and I didn't see Josh Robinson really stepping up over AJ Jefferson. But I'm glad to see that this team has that kind of depth now where they can do that instead of leaving in, an Asher Allen for an entire
Oh,
game when they have to.
yeah, yeah, or Medea Williams or whatever.
Right.
No, I hear you on that one. It's nice seeing depth on this team where they can move people in and out, and it's there's a lot of good things that they can build upon, and the defense is a strong point for this team because we all know Leslie Frazier is a defensive-minded kind of guy.
Yes.
Although we're not going to take it to the extreme of the stupid Jets and just focus like solely on our defense. Like Frazier's a smart cat. Like he'll get our offense rolling, in this off season here too. But he will definitely make sure that the right pieces are in place to run the defense that he wants to run.
Well, when you got a solid defense, you got a run game, and the passing game was just starting to pick up again.
Hmm.
So if we can get a couple more pieces in, and we'll be talking a lot about the draft and guys coming up and free agency. We'll be talking about a lot of that in the future. That's going to be what we're going to talk about while we wait for the draft and preseason and all that stuff. So we'll keep you filled in on all that.
Yeah. Do we have a countdown tracker yet for how many days until the kickoff of the 2013 regular season for the Minnesota Vikings yet?
I don't believe so, but we definitely could.
Well,
I've got
you'll have to get on that, Adam, because I'm all for countdown clocks, and I already want to like get next season kicked off.
I've got an off-season calendar here with all the combines and stuff like that. I'll post that up for you guys so that you know when everything's going down, when free agency opens, all the different combines that you can check out, all the East-West Shrine game, the Senior Bowl, the Pro
Hmm.
Bowl, Texas versus Nation Bowl, all that stuff.
And it's kind of cliched, but I mean the NFL season, if you're a if you really are a big enough fan, there's always something going on like all year long to talk about or debate about or whatever in regards to your team. There's always going to be free agents coming and going. This season we got Percy Harvin that we're going to have to deal with. There'll be lots of talk about him. And like you said, you got the draft coming up, and then we got,
Yeah, throughout the year, there's so many cool different things.
hmm
The 19th, January 19th, the East-West Shrine game. That's something you're going to want to check out. A lot of small school guys in that game. That'll probably be mid-round draft picks. That could be gems. I mean, I found a lot of guys in that game when I was doing my research last year that I watched, and I thought these guys are going to be good.
Yeah, that's one part where Rick Spielman did a better job in last year's draft. Is typically the Vikings seem to hit home in the first and second round pretty good, and then there was for many years there was a severe drop off in talent in our mid round guys, and he did a pretty good job last year of bringing in third and fourth round players who came in and contributed to the team. So hopefully we'll see that from Rick this year in this year's draft too.
Well, the Vikings had the luxury last year of coaching the Senior Bowl team, so they got to see a lot of guys right up front.
Hmm.
This year, the Lions will be coaching the Senior Bowl team, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I think the Raiders were the
Yes,
other
they'll be
staff
doing
of
the
that,
South.
right? So
Yes.
you can expect a lot of turnovers and someone to get stabbed in this year's Senior Bowl game.
I kind of see the Lions head coaches looking through the whole roster and saying, okay, which one of you is Kelvin Johnson? Because we're going to throw the ball at you 500 times.
And which one of you is most likely to stomp someone else in the crotch during the middle of a game? Like, we want you on our team. Like, these are your qualifications. Are you a really bad driver? Will you?
All I know is that the Raiders head coach better be practicing his handshakes because you don't want the Lions coach to get a handshake and get mad.
Oh,
Now, we had the luxury of having Cheryl's very good at calling for fair catches.
mm-hmm. Up
And of
until this
course, as
game.
soon as we get in the big situation, he's consistent. Now he drops his first one. He was feeling really bad about that on the sidelines in the locker room. He had players coming up and consoling him a little bit because he knew that he messed up.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, you can't be too hard on players like him because we have a young roster and we have a young team that kind of snuck their way into the wild card playoffs that were put
Yeah.
in an odd situation with a backup quarterback, and that put a lot of pressure on the rest of the team to try to step up and make plays. And so, do you blame him for being a little on the nervous side?
No, not at all.
No.
But a guy that really struggled that I didn't think should have was Chris Cluey. He had
Well,
some really odd punts and a terrible hold.
you and your anti-Cluey rant.
He struggled all year.
He'll be back next season.
And with the money he's making and the number of awesome punters that are coming out in this draft, I don't see how Chris Cluey stays.
If there is another punter on this team, I will boo him so heartily next year at training camp. Like, with my Cluey jersey on, I don't care if he's the coolest guy in the world. He will get booed.
Let's take a quick run on the injury report. We saw Harrison Smith leave the game. He came back. He'll go back to his normal workout schedule. He'll be fine. Ponder's elbow should heal with time. It shouldn't be an issue going forward really at all. Jared Allen's going to have surgery on his shoulder. We should see him heal up and be back. Injury report.
And Cluey has a bruised ego and telling him he needs to concentrate on punting more, apparently.
You got to admit, the guy, he's got a lot going on. And sometimes I wonder if focus is an issue because he's always doing something. But
Ah,
maybe he's one of those guys that can do all the things and handle things. But he made a lot of mistakes this year. And to me, your actions speak louder than your words, so I don't know.
he was hurt too, which is not an excuse, for everyone in the NFL plays hurt. But you know what? This show's running a little on the long side already. We'll do a whole show on Chris Cluey here in the coming weeks, probably.
Yeah, it sounds like you got a lot to say about him.
Yeah, I like Cluey.
So next week we'll return. We'll probably have a shorter show because there's no more Vikings football this season. We will probably follow a little bit of what's going on in the playoffs and the Super Bowl and all that.
Yeah, maybe it'll be fun. Maybe we'll do a game ball and a donkey for just the remaining teams that are out there. Like any player on any team that's playing that we want to do that for. That could be fun.
Can I give my game ball and donkey away mostly my donkey away for the season? Because if so, I want to give it to Tony Romo.
Yeah, that's we should actually save this for the beginning of next week's show. Like we could do just like an overall donkey of the season or something like that.
Yeah, we could
I'd
get
have to
together
go.
and
I'd have
make
to
an
go
award
with.
show of some kind.
I'd have to go with Scott Lindley. Does it get much worse than that? Like
Oh, wow.
Curtis Painter looked at Scott Lindley and went, "Wow, dude, what was that?"
Oh, yeah. But we still have the Pro Bowl to look forward to if you like to watch that. There
No,
will be some Vikings in there.
no one looks forward to the Pro Bowl. Not even the players in the Pro Bowl look forward to the Pro Bowl. I think they look forward to the vacation in Hawaii. They don't look forward to the actual game.
I'm just saying that we're going to see some Vikings in, quote, action, unquote, that game.
The one thing I guess I would like to see is just for one play when everyone else is out there going half speed. I just want to see Jerome Felton just level someone and then Adrian come up behind him and just like stiff arm someone else to death and just like run it in for like an 80-yard score and then that's it. Like he's done for the game after that.
Now, I want to mention one thing before we call this quits for today this week. Just to put a little bit of fear in the hearts of you guys, is that the Vikings didn't hammer out an extension with Jerome Felton during the season. So he will be an unrestricted free agent after this year.
Gosh, we'll save this for another show too. But
So I'm just saying.
he's more of a priority for this team right now than Leslie or Percy Harvin is.
And we'll save Percy Harvin for later too.
Like
So I just want to leave you guys with something to kind of scare your heads a little bit because he was a big part of this team this year.
priority list goes